Okay, let's unpack this because it's something quite fascinating. Imagine you are earning a fantastic salary here in the US, maybe, solid six figures, but you still feel constantly anxious, like perpetually poor. You look at your bank account, maybe your debt load, and you just think, I must be doing something wrong here. Well, you're not crazy. This intense financial stress, it isn't fundamentally about your checking account balance. It's about a really deeply rooted cultural concept, something that dictates status and dignity, a concept called faith.
Exactly. What we are diving into today is this, overwhelming pressure. It's particularly visible within the Vietnamese American community, this need to maintain status and dignity. In Vietnamese, it's fitting face.
Yeah.
And when you fail to meet those social expectations, especially the ones tied to money and, visible success, you risk mutmut. That literally means losing face.
Losing face.
Yeah, and this concept is so critical in the culture that there's actually a severe, deeply ingrained saying. It goes, better to die than lose face.
Wow. Okay. Better to die than lose face. That's intense.
It tells you everything about the stakes involved.
Right. So we received a whole stack of sources detailing this, let's call it a hidden financial burden. We're talking everything from these incredibly extravagant weddings that, financially sideline young couples for years to the crushing psychological toll of basically being the family's primary ATM.
Mm-hmm. The designated funder.
Exactly. So our mission today is first, let's really try to understand this cultural conflict, right? These invisible taxes placed on success. And then, critically, we want to deliver some practical strategies. How do you set strong financial boundaries without, sacrificing that essential family harmony and respect?
That's the tightrope walk, isn't it? Finding that balance.
It really is. So let's start with the visible performance of success, even when it's maybe backed by invisible debt. This first financial trap we're seeing, especially among like Gen Z and millennials, it's this phenomenon called exquisite poverty or nado tinti.
Guillotinter. Yeah, it's basically the performance of success. Plain and simple. It means maintaining what looks like a lavish lifestyle. The expensive clothes, the fancy international trips you see plastered all over social media, maybe the daily designer coffee.
Right. The Instagram feed looks amazing.
Exactly. But behind closed doors, they're secretly accumulating sometimes really high levels of consumer debt. It's this intense need to project prosperity outwardly, even if you're actually suffering privately.
And the numbers we saw backing this up are, well, they're pretty shocking. Our sources indicate that for some young people, their average consumer debt is as high as 18.5 times their reported monthly income.
18.5 times.
Let that sink in. 18.5 times monthly income.
So are these sources saying the level of debt is purely about keeping up appearances? Or is there maybe also a genuine lack of, say, basic financial literacy at play? Well, it seems overwhelmingly driven by the need for performance, for status maintenance. They feel compelled, really, to flex that successful lifestyle on social media, at family gatherings, even while they might be sinking deeper into financial distress. It's all about maintaining the image of being a successful, contributing member of the family unit. Because, failure to perform success can easily be interpreted as disrespecting the sacrifices the parents made.
So it's tied back to honoring the previous generation's struggle.
Very often, yes. That's a huge component.
Okay, that impulse to project success, even at a huge personal cost, that seems to tie directly into the next thing. The heavy cost of mandatory social rituals. This is where, like you said, private finance becomes a social currency.
Absolutely. We're talking about weddings, funerals, and critically Lunar New Year or Tet. These aren't just family get-togethers. They're major social events that often require massive, sometimes completely unplanned spending just to meet cultural standards.
Right, you can't just not participate or do it on the cheap, can you?
Not without risking mutmat, losing face, for the entire family. Think about that young U.S. couple whose story we found in the sources. They had saved diligently, right? Built up a significant amount for a house down payment, a huge achievement.
Yeah, the American dream, basically.
Right. But because of overwhelming family pressure to host a wedding that demonstrated the family's, wealth and status, they ended up sacrificing those savings entirely to afford this unnecessarily grand event.
Oh, wow. They spiked their down payment on the wedding.
Every penny. They delayed homeownership by years. all for a single, very public stage of social validation.
That is just a staggering trade-off. Years of long-term financial security traded for one day of social approval. It really underscores the power of this face concept.
It does. The wedding or the funeral or this tet, it's not just about the couple or the individual. It's a public stage for the entire family status.
Okay, so this intense public pressure, this performance, it leads us directly into the generational burden, doesn't it? Particularly hitting what people call the sandwich generation.
Yes, this is the immense stress faced by, typically, middle-aged Vietnamese Americans. They are quite literally squeezed between obligations. They're often financially supporting both their aging parents and their own children, simultaneously.
That's tough in any culture, but what makes it particularly acute here?
Well, here's the crucial detail we found. For many immigrant parents, especially from the first generation, they often lacked access to, or perhaps weren't able to contribute significantly to, formal U.S. retirement plans, like 401ks. So their children effectively become their default retirement plan. It's not just hoped for, it's often expected.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just a request for a bit of help now and then. It's actually a structural requirement baked into the family dynamic.
In many cases, yes. And this immense dual responsibility, you can imagine, it leads to extreme financial and mental exhaustion. We see sources detailing significant stress, anxiety, serious mental health issues. And it often forces these middle-aged individuals to delay their own retirement savings, sometimes indefinitely.
Which ironically just sets up the next generation for the same problem, right?
Exactly. It's a multi-generational cycle of financial stress. If they prioritize parental support and daily living over, say, maximizing their own 401k or other investments, they're basically guaranteeing that they, too, might eventually become a financial burden on their own children down the line.
It's a tough cycle to break. And here's where it gets, I think, really interesting and maybe counterintuitive for some listeners. Let's talk about the Henry paradox. High earner, not rich yet.
Yes, the Henrys.
This applies to the high-income folks, right? People earning, say, $100,000, $200,000, maybe even more per year. You'd assume that level of income should alleviate the financial stress.
You would absolutely hope so. But here's the twist. In this context, their financial success is often not viewed by the extended family unit as personal wealth. It's seen more as a larger pool of resources available for the entire network, the extended family, to tap into.
So wait, when their income goes up,
expectations and financial requests often increase proportionally. From parents, siblings, sometimes distant relatives, even family back overseas in Vietnam. The higher the salary, the higher the sort of implicit family tax.
So their actual discretionary income, the money they have left over after everything, might not change that much even as they climb the corporate ladder.
It can stagnate, yeah.
Yeah.
Because their obligations just scale up to meet whatever their salary bracket is perceived to be. It's a constant escalation.
That sounds exhausting. And then topping off this pressure cooker is the relentless obligation of the remittance burden, sending money back home.
Right. And the scale is huge. Vietnam receives billions of dollars in remittances annually. It's a major economic factor. But the real problem for the individual sender isn't just the amount of money itself. It's the profound psychological barrier tied to saying no, or even just reducing the amount.
How so?
Stopping or even just cutting back on remittances, even if it's absolutely financially necessary for the sender living here in the U.S. It's often interpreted by family back home as, but.
But, Hugh, what does that translate to, roughly?
It means disrespectful, unfilial, lacking piety towards your elders. In severe cases, it can be seen as tantamount to cutting off ties with the family.
Okay, so refusing is seen as a deep personal insult, not just a financial decision.
Precisely. And that makes setting limits incredibly difficult, almost impossible for some. We found accounts of people literally choosing to live very meagerly abroad, maybe working multiple low-wage jobs, struggling, just to maintain the illusion of high success back home through continued remittances. The emotional weight, the potential blackmail, is that powerful.
The fear of being branded, but Hugh.
And risking the entire family's might, their face, their social standing. It's often a deeper psychological driver than, say, saving for your own down payment or planning for your own retirement.
This cycle is clearly unsustainable. It sounds incredibly stressful. So if that fear of losing face, meat, is the main psychological weapon causing this financial self-sabotage, hiding debt, avoiding financial advisors, or even mental health help, how do we start to build some armor? We need a new framework, right? Something that respects the culture but also demands financial sanity.
Yes, exactly. We need to shift the conversation Entirely. It's not helpful to just blame the culture. We need to find solutions that honor the core values while building resilience. We sometimes call it the yes and approach.
Okay, yes, and how does that work?
It means you consciously decide to.
Yep.
Yes, honor the tradition of Hugh Thou, that deep sense of filial piety and respect for elders A&D, establish clear, firm financial independence and boundaries for yourself. It's not either.
Got it. Honor the value, but manage the execution. So let's get practical. Let's start with a crucial financial tool. Strategy 1, the ritual budget. Because like you said, while those costs for Tate, weddings, funerals might feel unexpected and overwhelming, they are actually predictable, aren't they?
They absolutely are. God's every year. People get married. People pass away. These are life cycle events. So this tool, the ritual budget, helps transform that anxiety into a sense of control. You set up a dedicated savings account or budget category. Call it the ritual and social obligation budget, specifically for all that stuff. Gifting, weddings, funerals, holidays.
Okay, a separate pot of money. How much should people aim for?
Well, experts we looked at suggest starting small and manageable. Maybe aim for 2% to 5% of your net monthly income. You put that aside automatically each month. The crucial rule here, though, is simple but non-negotiable. You strictly prohibit using your emergency fund for any face-saving spending. That fund is sacred. It's for true emergencies, not social obligations.
Right, protect the emergency fund at all costs. Okay, so that helps manage the money flow. Now let's talk about managing the conversation. That's often the hardest part, isn't it? Strategy 2, the 3C script. You called it the diplomatic tool.
Yes, because saying no, especially to elders or family, is incredibly difficult. This framework is designed specifically for those high-stakes conversations where emotions can run really hot. It breaks down into 3 parts. First C, come and thank.
Okay, start positive.
Yes. Start by expressing deep respect and gratitude. Acknowledge their request, maybe their sacrifice. Validate their position first. Don't just jump to no. Second C, circumstance. This is where you set the boundary, but you do it using clear I statements. Explain why you have to set the limit. Focus on your own budget, your own commitments, your own priorities, I feel. Or I can commit to this amount because my budget allows for.
So you're explaining your reality, not just rejecting theirs.
Exactly. And the third C, commitment alternative. This is key. Don't just say no. Offer something else. Offer non-monetary support, perhaps, or offer a smaller, defined amount. Or suggest an alternative solution that doesn't involve you just handing over cash.
Okay, can you give us a quick example? Like, what does that actually sound like in practice? Say a parent or relative asks for a large, unexpected sum of money.
Sure. So instead of just blurting out, I can't afford that, which can sound dismissive, you might try something like, Mom, Dad, Auntie, I really respect you asking me, and I know how much you've done for our family. That's commend thank. Then, right now, I can commit to helping with a specific smaller amount, say $200 this month, but I can't manage the full amount you asked for because I'm really focused on paying down our mortgage saving for the kids' education, covering these unexpected medical bills. That's circumstance, using I statements and specific reasons. And then, but what I can do is spend next Saturday helping you sort through those insurance papers, or driving you to your appointments, or maybe helping you research community resources that might help. That's commitment alternative.
Okay, I see. That feels much different. It frames the refusal not as selfishness or disrespect, but as choosing a different form of responsibility or support. It acknowledges the request while holding the line.
Precisely. It validates their need while protecting your financial boundaries. It's about diplomacy.
Makes sense. And finally, strategy 3. Soft family agreements. Formalizing the informal. What's this about?
This addresses the stress of unpredictable demands. Those sudden phone calls asking for money that throw your whole budget off track. They're mentally exhausting and financially disruptive. So instead of constantly reacting to these requests, you proactively suggest creating a soft agreement. This means discussing and agreeing on a level of regular monthly support if that's something you choose to provide. It's fixed, it's planned, and ideally you even write it down somewhere informally.
So like, okay, I can reliably contribute X amount each month towards your expenses, and that's the understanding.
Exactly. It prevents those disruptive sudden demands because the expectation is managed up front. It turns what felt like an unpredictable emotional obligation into a planned, budgeted financial contribution. You're still honoring Haifao. You're still showing respect and providing support, but you're doing it on your terms, within your budget. You regain control.
These strategies seem really practical. So wrapping things up, it feels like we've seen that this burden of losing face, it isn't really about people being financially irresponsible or naive, is it?
Not fundamentally, no.
It seems much more about this deeply rooted, powerful desire to protect your family's dignity, their social standing, their honor.
That's often the core motivation, yes.
And the key to finding some freedom here seems to be using modern financial tools like clear budgeting, these communication frameworks, to navigate those ancient, very powerful cultural values.
Well put. It's about bridging those two worlds. And this whole discussion, it really raises an important question, I think, for everyone listening, maybe regardless of your specific cultural background. How do we transform this concept of he found, or really any strong sense of family obligation, from being primarily a short-term cash flow burden, the constant need for remittance or bailouts? How do we shift that into a proactive strategy for building multi-generational wealth?
That's a powerful reframe.
Because maybe the most respectful, the most truly loving thing you can do for your parents or your family isn't just to be their immediate ATM when they ask, but maybe it's to build such strong financial foundations for yourself and help them build theirs that nobody needs an emergency ATM down the line. It's about prioritizing long-term stability and financial education for everyone involved.
Thinking long term, not just reacting to the immediate demand. Wow. Okay, lots to think about there. So, for everyone listening, what stands out to you about this pressure? Does this resonate with your experience, even if you're not from a Vietnamese background? Have you successfully implemented something like a ritual budget or used a diplomatic script like the 3C method to set financial boundaries with family? Share your thoughts and your stories in the comments below. We genuinely want to hear your experience and what's worked or hasn't worked for you.
Yeah, the more strategies we share, the better.
Absolutely. And if you found these ideas and solutions helpful, please hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into complex, culturally relevant topics just like this one. We'll be back next time to unpack something else fascinating.